Okay, so we're in a mess. You know, the world is in a mess. There is chaos, conflict, human suffering, brutality on, levels that are unprecedented. And it's not the level of suffering that's unprecedented, but it's the level of access we have as a collective to this because of digital social media and our access to information and imagery that's making it unprecedented. Okay. We're all aware that there are violent conflicts happening in the world, okay? But we are also aware that there are mental conflicts happening in different places, okay? So we've got these conflicts, social conflicts, political conflicts, etc., etc. And this video is coming at it from a very, very specific point of view. And I'm coming at it from the energetics of these situations in order to educate in terms of the energetics of this situation, but also in order to inspire and empower and really give you a sense of responsibility at this time, okay? Because we are all responsible for how this unfolds, okay? And the very first thing I want to clear up and make really, really plain to you is if you are under the illusion that you are in a position of righteousness at this time, you are part of the conflict. You are part of the issue, the problem. If you are absolutely convinced that a particular person, leader, political group, country, race, region is the problem, and you are passionate about that, you are part of the problem. You are feeding energetically into this conflict situation around the globe. Okay. So why am I saying that? So the first thing to cover, again, energetically, I'll keep coming back to that because I want you to know that the way I view the world as an energy medicine practitioner is very different to the way I view the world as a human being, as a daughter, as a mother, as a sister. Okay. So there's things that I will say in this video that I understand will be upsetting for people, but I'm coming at this from the point of view, as I say, the very specific point of view as an energy medicine practitioner and somebody who works with energy. And over the last couple of years, I've been given extremely clear messaging about the things that I am witnessing as these crises unfold, or these political situations unfold in real time, fed to us on the daily, on the hourly, on the minutely. Okay, so very specific point of view coming forward, and it isn't necessarily my point of view. It is the owl's point of view. It is the view from above, looking down, being removed from this on a human level. Okay, which is not something I can do every day, because as I say, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. I belong to a specific race of people, I belong to a specific heritage, all the rest of it the same as everybody else. Okay, so let's just clear that up. So when you are sitting in judgment of anything, any person, any situation, this is the wound of the third eye. Okay, so we have the 5 energetic soul wounds that we come into this world with. Okay, now it is said that it's the wound of the feminine. You know, these are the Magdalene wounds of the feminine, but we all have masculine and feminine. So these are the wounds of our times. This is what we've come in to heal. And the wound of separation sits at the wound of judgment sits at the third eye. Okay, The third eye is your energetic center for true vision, for seeing the absolute truth. Now, we get very caught up these days in my truth. This is my truth. This is her truth. We've all got our individual truth. The third eye is responsible for you seeing the truth, the energetic truth. And I'm talking fundamental truths that span through all the religions, fundamental truths that span through human law, natural law, these fundamental truths that involve the fact that we are all equal, we are all unified, we are all technically one big thing. And I'm talking about the entire systemic world, plants, animals, water, the elements, okay? So bear in mind that when you come back to that type of premise, that universal premise of oneness, all other stuff disappears. Okay, so this truth that we're supposed to be seeing, this truth that we have access to internally, is clouded and blocked by the wound of judgment. Okay, so there's the first thing. The salve for this wound is forgiveness. Okay, and it's forgiveness of all. It is universal forgiveness. How many people in the room, in the world, in anything, are willing at this time to forgive all? If the answer is no, you're part of the problem. These are just truths. They're just truths. So if we're sitting in judgment, and I want to bring this down to, let's think about a political leader that right now is causing you to feel hatred, or a political party. And so what you're doing is you're focusing a huge amount of hatred and judgment on this one person. Okay, so energetically, here she is again, but I don't care, I'm going to keep saying it. Energetically, what's happening there is you're sitting in judgment of something, of a situation that you can't possibly understand. Okay, number one, what it takes to 99.999% of us will never be in a position of real power. Okay, and that's for a number of reasons. Number one, it's not our path. Number two, we don't have what it takes to get to those echelons of power. And that's not saying that that's a negative thing, because the reality of the world as it is now is, to get to anything like a position of power, you have to go through some dirty, awful things that you don't want to go through, that most people don't want to go through. You have to be complicit to certain things that most people do not want to be complicit to. Most of us would not make it mentally to know what these people in power know, because most of what we believe to be true is an illusion. And so that's the first thing. So we cannot say, you cannot, in all truth, in truth, you cannot say that what I would do if I was him or her or them is this, because we will never have that experience. And nor could we have that experience, because we either weren't born in the right place, we had no desire to do it, we didn't go to the right school, we don't know the right. So most of us are seeing the world from a very singular perspective. And the people who are in these positions of power are seeing things from a perspective that we cannot imagine. We just can't. I bring it back sometimes to, okay, imagine if you, think of your street. Okay, just think of your street that you live on. Imagine if you had to decide, you had to take all the collective assets And it was up to you to decide where those assets went based on a system of judgment that's down to you. Okay, so you have to decide who deserves what out of that collective pot. You have to decide what time everyone should go to bed. You have to decide what kind of work everyone should do under what conditions. Okay, even for your own street, the realities of that would blow most people's minds. Okay, so that's just one instance. So can you see how that, when we're standing and going, well, he or she or that party or they are doing such and such a thing, right? You don't know how to do it any better, and neither do I. Okay, face that fact. Okay, second thing is, any person who's been brought up in any country, is their mind and their experience are coloured by that particular experience. So you cannot sit in judgment of them. Nobody is born into this life having the capacity to carpet bomb a load of children. You know, you're not born with that. You're not born with that capacity. Okay, that is lived experience. That is ancestral experience. That is you being infiltrated and, mentally infiltrated with hatred. Okay, so again, when we sit and we send, if you send hatred of any description to anyone in any political figure or any person in perceived power, what's happening is you are further scrambling their capacity to make good, sound decisions. Okay, now you might say, well, Francesca, they have no capacity for that anyway. Sound, I believe you. But if I got you up on a stage at one of my events and I ask people I can show you the effect on your body and your mind when I ask 20 people in the room to send you malintention. Okay, I can show you what that does to you. What if that's millions or billions of people? What is that doing to an individual? What if all of that hatred and that frustration and anger and that is pinpointed onto these individual people, they haven't got a chance of making the right decision. They haven't. They will lead us all further and further and further into the chaos. You are responsible for that if you're not working on this judgment. You are responsible. So when they do something wrong in your eyes, remember your part in that. And this is what I mean by giving people the two sides of the coin are power and responsibility, rights and responsibility. We have the power to change this scene, but you have to take the responsibility for that. And it's fine to have done things with ignorance, but once you know, it's not fine anymore. Okay? The next thing I would say, we've had an unprecedented experience of sharing imagery of abject human suffering. And I'm being very careful with my words. I'm not saying the things that I would say to you in the pub, okay? Because I want this to get as far as it can. So we are being shown abject human suffering. But we've been shown it, and it's been shared in a way that energetically it's unsafe. And I have to say that. And again, this is really difficult because, well, it's not actually difficult because I've been shown what this does. Okay, so there's two reasons that I have never shared I've shared my support of certain groups, ethnic groups, let's say. I have never ever shared imagery of their suffering. Now, I understand perfectly why people have, because there is this belief that why should Susan in the home counties not be subject to what is happening? Okay, just because it's not on her door, just because it's thousands of miles away and the child concerned might be of a different skin colour, why should Susan of the home counties or Sherelle of California not be subject to this suffering? Okay, why should they be protected against it and not shown? And I'll tell you why. Because Susan from the home counties does not know, she does not have the capacity generally to safely process energetically the imagery that she's being shown. Okay, now I have done this work for a long time. I've been in practice after layer for years on my own system. And I have taken those images and I have passed them through me, hopefully in a safe manner. Okay. Now, I know the vast majority of people can't do that, which is why, as an energy medicine practitioner, no matter what I believe, no matter how my heart feels at the situations, I would never pass on that energetic unsafety, because the ripple effect of that across the world, well, it hasn't saved any lives, has it? What it has done is it has made exponentially worse and worse and worse situations as the suffering has been passed far and wide. Okay, again, I understand the intention behind doing it, but these are the energetic truths. Energy is all there is. Okay, so Susan from the home counties can't process this. The other thing I've seen from people I really respect, things like, I'm not coming to your yoga class if you haven't been seen, and let's get this right, seen to be doing what I am doing, seen to be an activist on one form or another. If you haven't seen to be the right thing. So what you're saying then is the people who are out there who are trying to help Susan to have a regulated enough nervous system that she can be a useful member of society and she can process what's happening in a useful way, in a safe way, in a way that then instigates change rather than just causes a fucking meltdown, yeah, or complete denial, complete outer body, I'm not dealing with that, I cannot deal with that. You aren't behind that. Okay. So again, once we get into this seat of righteousness, now I can hear how righteous I sound. I can hear it because I'm talking from this perspective of purely energetics. And what I would like to remind people of is the people who are, or the entities, let's call them entities, the entities that are in charge, the entities that are perpetuating, that are signing the forms to say, yeah, go and cause massive human suffering. The entities that are doing that, they know about energetics far more than you or I ever will, because they don't get to those positions of absolute power without knowing about it. Okay, don't let this old idea of the woo-woo fool you. The people at the top, They know what the stars are doing. They know what the planets are doing. They know what energetics do. Okay? You would not have been allowed, and many, many, many instances of things happen daily. The human suffering that actually goes on the planet that you do not have a clue about, that you never, ever, ever get to see, is exponentially bigger than what you've been shown. But what you've done in sharing this imagery is you have done their job for them. You have been allowed to see this. Don't ever forget that. You've been allowed to see this. And there's much that you're not allowed to see. And so by passing on the impact, albeit diluted, I know that it is not the same impact as the people who have been in physically this situation and died under these circumstances and been maimed and all the other things. But you have passed on that suffering unwittingly. But that's what's happened. So again, this is about shifting the perspective. This is about shifting how we get, what do we do to how do we reclaim our own responsibility and power in this seemingly powerless, hopeless portrait of the world that we're being shown right now. Okay. And it begins with this internal acceptance of your own conflicts. Where are you holding judgment? Where are you? The next wound we're going to talk about is separation, which is at the crown. Now, if you think about where all this is, okay, separation and judgment at the third eye and the crown, these are your information centers. This is where you're taking in, because the third eye also affects the ears. The crown is affecting information coming from outside of your body. So if these two receptors are scrambled by wounding, you cannot tell me that you're thinking straight about this. If you have this complete misconception and this complete hallucination that you are separate from the people that you perceive to be in the wrong, even, or the people that you perceive to be the victims, you are not able to see or compute the truth. So again, it's about the salves. So the salves to these wounds, we have forgiveness and we have unity. So even just hearing those words, even just replacing judgment with forgiveness and separation with unity, energetically, that is all that we can endeavor to do. And I'm going to take this portion from Pam Gregory, because she said something, she was able to sum up something that I've been witnessing in my own system and, feeling a certain amount of guilt for. Those of us who are in the privilege of being able to experience peace in our own home, in our own system, in our own hearts, we are duty bound to do so. If you are talking yourself into, or I've seen a lot of, I feel guilty every time I cook because I know there are people starving. I feel guilty every time I sit in a comfortable environment because I know that people, you are not helping in the slightest. Don't kid yourself, you are. That is ego-driven nonsense. Your ego, if you are worried about what you need to be seen to be doing or saying or sharing, and I have fallen into this, and easily, where I've been like, well, if I'm not seen to be sharing this, ego, because my whole being knew whenever I tapped in, what I had to do was stay in peace. What I also know is that what my role is not the same as somebody else's. Some people are here to be the fire. They're here to be the activist. Others of us are here to be the water. We're here to be the cleanse and the peace. So what I would say to you is, number one, replacing judgment and separation with forgiveness and unity. Okay? Even if it's just embracing those words. And this is applicable to any of these situations, be it political, be it social, be it, wherever they are trying to divide, whether it's about gender, whether it's about sexuality, whether it's about race, wherever they are trying to divide, replace it with unity. Replace it with the knowledge that whatever's happening to anyone in this world is also happening to you. Whatever's happening to you is also happening to whoever else it is. We have to get our heads around these very basic principles, okay? Whenever we're feeling judgment, especially strong negative judgment towards an individual, a party, a country, a race, okay? Got to replace it with forgiveness. At least an attempt to, at least a recognition. If nothing else, recognize that you're judging. Recognize that. See that. Own that. Own that you are standing in judgment and that you are part of, therefore, the conflict and the chaos and the problem. And none of this is easy. I'm not saying any of this is easy. I'm sure it's not easy to hear. It's not particularly easy to say because, I hear it's very important to have the human lived experience. But we're now, and not just now, we've been in for a long while. We've been in an absolute mire. And we have to start clawing our way out of it. And buying into and aligning with, this was given to me very, very early on, a couple of years ago. Do not align your story and your grief with the people who you perceive to be who are the victims. Okay? Because energetically, again, when you align, when you say, yes, my people have been through this, and literally my people have been through this, okay? If I were to do that, if I were to put my story into their current story, if I was to put my history and align it with theirs, I am multiplying and multiplying and multiplying the suffering energetically. And this is true on so many, we're all very much at this moment being manipulated into the intensifying and the magnifying of our differences, okay? The colonizer and the native, the skin color differences, our social standing differences, they are all true in a way, but the other side of that, the side of the future we want, is in about buying into, rejecting. I reject, say it out loud. I reject your notion, your selling me the idea of polarity. I reject it. I reject polarity. All I see is unity. All I see is unity. All I feel is unity. Reject it out loud. And really be honest on a very personal level. Who do you need to forgive in your life? I'm not suggesting you go out and make friends with all your enemies. I'm not. But at least energetically get forgiveness down as a really important part of your life. I'm going to wrap it up, and I'm going to wrap it up by saying the time of outward, who is coming to fix this, is long, long gone. No one's coming to fix this. We've all petitioned, we've protested, we've done other things, and I'm not telling you not to do that. I'm not suggesting for a second not to do that. I'm not saying that I won't continue to do that. But the entire system is rotten, and we've got to allow it to fall away. And therefore, the salve to the rotten system is sovereignty. And sovereignty sounds really sexy and great, you know, it sounds like an absolute privilege, and it is a privilege, but the privilege of anything comes with responsibility. And if you want sovereignty, if you want freedom, true freedom, then you have to accept your part in it. So for those of us who have the privilege of experiencing peace, experience as much peace as you can. For those of us who have the absolute honour and privilege of food and water and healthcare and homes, experience it, love into it, and experience it. For those who can't, do not feed into the suffering energetically. I wonder how many times I've said that, but do not feed energetically into the suffering. Feed into the peace. And that is really your decision. That's the power piece. That's the power, is where you feed energetically into. And remember that anyone who has and I wouldn't swap place with any single leader on this planet right now. I wouldn't. And if you would, good for you. But remember this judgment, and also your malintent towards them is feeding into every last bad decision that they make. So God bless all of you. God, the Goddess, the infinite all that is, bless all of you. And let's really take on board our personal power in this matter.